So we went and saw the Royal Hotel. We had to drive a little ways to go see this because it wasn't playing at any of the theaters around us, weirdly. Don't know why.
Yeah.
But this one stars Julia Garner, Jessica Henwick, and Hugo Weaving. Those are the names.
Yeah, those are the names.
And this is about Canadians. Never confirmed. I think they got to be American,
I'm pretty
right?
sure they're
I don't think they
American.
ever outright say it, but they pose as Canadians because the funny thing that we found funny as Americans is they're like, everybody likes Canadians.
Yeah.
Like everybody hates Americans.
Right.
in other countries, and I'm sure that's true.
Yeah,
I don't.
Sure that is
I don't
true.
blame them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're traveling the globe to get away from something. We don't know what, but they are, and they run out of money.
Yeah.
And so they have to take a work program, and they get sent to this out in nowhere pub to tend bar in a rowdy mining town. Think like My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah.
For the kind of
but
town.
Australian.
Yeah, an Australian My Bloody Valentine. But that one's Canadian, funny enough.
Oh yeah, that is funny.
And when they get there, the people there aren't the best to them. Okay, as far as like, it's a million trillion % not horror. So,
yeah,
but we cover horror and thrillers on the channel.
Yeah,
and we'll cover whatever the hell we want. I did Ernest Scared Stupid.
That's horror.
Right.
Family horror.
But as far as that goes, it is technically a thriller, but it is a very reserved and mild thriller.
Yeah.
This is more of like if you're a woman, this will make you uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
Because like this, it never goes insanely overboard, right? Everything's more just kind of like dudes crossing the line, but never like crossing the line into places where we need some kind of like I spit on your grave resolution, right? Where there's like girls are like viciously raped and beaten to a pulp and left in a ditch for dead. It's nothing like that. This is a much more tepid version of what we're used to.
Yeah.
And I think because I went into this expecting it to be more like not hardcore. I shouldn't say that. I didn't expect it to be hardcore. But I expected the guys in this movie, mostly because every movie you see is dialed to 11. I just thought it was going to be like there was going to be more going on with what they had to deal with. Not that what they're having to deal with in the film isn't terrible.
It's awful.
Right? It's just much more grounded.
Yeah.
And I think for some people, what's funny, I'm going to let Kaylee talk here in a second. But last thing, what's really funny is we had two women sitting in front of us.
Yeah.
And right when things started to kind of feel like they were going to ramp up, I honestly thought someone was going to get raped.
Yeah, it did start to feel like that.
It did kind of feel like that. But the girls immediately got up and walked out.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was funny because they left and then the whole rest of the movie played. And I was like, I think they would have been fine.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it depends because I think that like when people, like if rape is a trigger for you, I think even situations that are like close to it can still be really disturbing and put you in an awful mindset. So
yeah.
I don't know what happened with them, but
it's a good point.
I thought the movie, it's a good movie. I think we were talking about it in the drive home and what you were just saying about how all of the behaviors of the men are like very grounded and realistic and very much something that like women will have experienced.
Yeah, they put up with it, but they shouldn't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like watching all of that definitely made me uncomfortable. I was just like, the entire movie was pretty much just like, you need to leave. Like, you just need to leave the situation.
But that's the dynamic, right? Which you should talk about for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the two friends, like, one of them is much more of a party animal, and she's very kind of condescending towards her other friend, who's the one that's concerned and wary and is, like, pointing things out of, like, hey, like, this isn't right, like, they're dangerous or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was definitely really frustrating to watch because it's like you want to see women having each other's backs, and especially for their relationship because we were introduced to them as, you know, good friends and everything, and they're traveling and all this. But I think that having that element in there does actually make it even more realistic, because there are definitely women like that too, that will like downplay other women's concerns about safety around men.
Yeah.
Like, you're just being dramatic, you're just being whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, parts of it were definitely like hard to watch in that sense. But I know you were saying too, and I agreed with you, that like everything just kind of stays at the same level, like throughout the film.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of like a climax towards, I mean, there is a climax at the very end, of course.
Yeah.
But like it amps up and then it goes down a little, and then it amps up and then it goes down a little, and it kind of keeps that pace throughout, which was interesting.
Sure, but like if you had like a seismograph of that, it would be like this.
Yeah.
It's never like, oh my god, like this is,
no,
the tension is so high and this is crazy. But it felt, as I said, it's a very grounded and realistic film, and I think that would definitely bore a good amount of people who would be like, there's just not enough going on in this movie. But I think maybe for this is like, I definitely think this is much more geared towards women. Yeah,
because I was gonna say that even though it's like a subtle change, like the seismograph, that's like everyday life for a lot of women.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's like,
but I can't relate to that.
Yeah, but you could see obviously in this how like having to deal with that 24/7.
I can sympathize.
Yeah,
like
it's
crazy,
awful.
But I can't empathize, right? Because I've never experienced anything quite like it. You know, I've been objectified and whatnot, but I'm never scared.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the difference. I don't fear being raped. I don't fear being manhandled. I don't fear, or even woman handled. Right. Like when I've had inappropriate clients in the salon who are saying things and touching and doing all this stuff. Yes, there's a level of discomfort, and it's not okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not dismissing it as like, it's no big deal. But because I know I have the upper hand on them, that I know that nothing physically is going to happen to me that I don't want to happen, like I can stop it at any moment.
Yeah.
That is the disconnect.
Sure.
And so, but I can, of course, can understand, you know, right? Like, and if I went to prison and I was dealing with dudes that were like 3 times my size, and I'm like, there's literally nothing I can do, then I'd probably know what it felt like.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah, it's a good movie. I wasn't super like into it, but I liked it. Like the whole time it was on, I was like, everyone's performances are good. Hugo Weaving is like unrecognizable as this total drunk loser. I'm so used to him being like Elron.
Yeah, or V.
Yeah, somebody who's like very like cunning and smart and elegant.
Oh my god, he's like the total opposite of that here.
Everything.
Which is, you know,
his introduction into this film, the way he talks to Julie Garner is so funny.
Yeah, the way that they get spoken to throughout is just, it's just disgusting. It's a very like it's not like a man-hating film or anything, but it is something that I was like, God, like when men are bad, they're awful.
Sure.
It's scary being a woman.
It can. I mean, it sounds like it. Yeah,
like it really
seems
is.
like it. Yeah.
So.
But. I definitely think men could enjoy it. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it, but I absolutely feel like this is a movie made for women by women that are kind of like, girl, I get you. Yeah. Like, we know what we go through. Yeah. And here's a film about it. You know what this movie needed? You know what this movie really needed? While I was watching it the whole time, I couldn't stop thinking about it because, you know, Hanna, played by Julie Garner, the whole time, and she's trying her best to stay like, she's neutral and kind of quiet and submissive to a degree.
Yeah.
But of course, everybody has their line, and it keeps waiting to get crossed and that kind of thing. And I'm sitting there the whole time like, if Ruth Langmore was here, this would be a totally different film. So her character she plays in a show called Ozark, if you haven't seen it.
Yes.
she is like this like spunky, foul-mouthed,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
freaking little firecracker.
So much
who
fire.
It's weird. It was very interesting because that's what I know her best from.
Yeah.
I've seen her in other things like The Last Exorcism Part 2 and other, random things here and there. But what I know her best from is as Ruth.
Yeah.
I tried to put her first and last name together there. Luth. So I was just watching this being like, oh my God, like it was weird to see her kind of so timid.
Yeah.
When people were like being mean to her and she was kind of like uncomfortable and like didn't even want to look at them and like, oh my God, is this a different character than Ruth would have pulled out a shotgun?
Oh my God, yeah,
instantaneously and been like, she could have handled this bar.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. Because we see it in Ozark. She handles these kinds of situations like nothing because she just is so strong. Now, whether or not that's realistic, I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there are women like that, and I think that
of course,
Ruth's character in Ozark is definitely like a flawed character for sure, but there is something very admirable about how self-assured she is, and I think that is a quality that women should aspire towards, because I do think that there's a level of, I mean, if a guy is crazy and trying to rape you or like do whatever, it doesn't really matter how like self-assured you are or not, but I do think that can deter people from being like, if you're mousy and like,
oh sure, it makes you a target.
You're a target, like you're easier to take advantage of versus if you're like a strong, loud, like in your face person. So that was interesting seeing the different characters. I think she's a fantastic actress, and I did like her performance quite a bit in this. I think everybody does a great job, honestly. Even all the minors too. Like some of them were like just I hated them, and so they did a great job for that.
And one last thing on that is that the film, it's never like black and white with that stuff. The characters that we meet in this movie, they kind of they have this kind of balancing act with them throughout where I kept being like, is this a good guy or not? I can't tell because like there's a lot of drinking and there's a lot of like grab assing and like, so some of it's like drunks being drunks and partiers being partiers, and there's like a romance kind of blossoming or brewing. And you're kind of always sitting back with certain characters and going, you even feel bad for one of them.
Oh, sure.
At one point, we're like, oh.
Yeah.
But then towards the end, you're like,
fuck him.
You're right. So it does a good job at doing that, which I really appreciate, where it wasn't just like these guys come in like I spit on your grave type rapists. They're awful monsters from moment one to moment end. Like they do, and this is why I think this is actually a good movie, even if I wasn't super entertained by it, because I don't think it was meant for me. But it is that like blending of like, is like good guy, bad guy, and constantly kind of going back and forth between them and being like, but never so much one way or the other that I was like, oh, okay, we're good. Or, oh shit, no, he's a monster, until like maybe like towards the end. But it really just kind of goes back and forth where I'm like, I don't know how to feel about these people. I don't like them, but are they that bad? They kind of are. Maybe not. And then you're kind of like, oh yeah. So I thought that was that's what I'm saying. This is why it's super realistic. I think it's well written, and I think it's well directed. So, and well acted. So it is a good movie. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. It's absolutely. But anybody who's like a horror fan and wants it to be like some badass bitches who get revenge on guys that betrayed them and they grab some shotguns and no, that ain't the film. They're not gonna go and cut these guys up or anything. So So it just says thriller on IMDb. I would say drama
primarily
with lingering thriller elements. Yeah. So that's that. Anything more, babe?
No.
Oh, it says right here, U.S. backpackers, Hanna and Liv.
So they are U.S.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly are, obviously. I just don't know if they ever outright say it.
Yeah.
But that's it.
That's it.
The Royal Hotel. Let us know if you go see it. Bye. Adios.